Bob rushed over to his gun racks and flipped for the keys. His dreams were coming true. He almost couldn't believe it. But this couldn't be a trick. Could it? He thought for a second that maybe a well-produced video, some sort of modern-day War of the Worlds, could fool him. None of his friends were capable of such things, and the world was way too PC to pull off a War of the Worlds in today's world. Someone would get their ass sued. He looked back at the TV. Hollywood bath salt zombie invasion sprawled across the top of CNN. Shit was real. The gun racks flew open. Bob looked at his shotguns. He had 6. He quickly thought about all the times shooting each of them. Each shotgun had its own quirks and personality. They were lined from newest to oldest, left to right. He crossed off the 2 middle guns. They jammed way too often. He was either taking the one on the far right, his oldest and most faithful, a double-barrel 12-gauge, or his newest, a semi-automatic 10-gauge. He had only taken the 10-gauge shooting once, but it was badass. And in the zombie apocalypse, or bath salt apocalypse, whatever this was, having 6 loaded shells was way better than having to reload after every 2 shots. While deciding what gun to take, Bob did his best impression of a Rambo getting ready for battle montage. He didn't have any real army equipment, so his montage was mostly missing the shots of pulling straps tight and latching grenades onto his belt. But he did have a bandolier, more than enough ammo for each of his guns, and an Aqua Teen Hunger Force belt that held a knife, a holstered M7, and a bag of Doritos. He was ready to motherfucking go. He looked around one last time. This was it. He checked the peephole. Clear. Then he started thinking about his apartment complex. He hadn't heard anyone scream or anything out of the ordinary. All the zombie news he saw was on TV. He checked his phone. Bath salt zombie Hollywood rampage was on every news site. Maybe his apartments were clear. There were only 2 ways in, one through the gated garage and one through the main entrance. Barricade the front main entrance and everyone inside would pretty much be safe. He always liked that about this complex. He opened his door slowly, then crept out, shotgun first. Still clear. He took careful steps towards the front door. As he passed apartments, he checked the windows. The unit closest to the front door was Beatrice's. She was an old, retired actress who had become a hoarder. He passed her window and they silently looked at each other with pale faces and cautious eyes. The front door to the apartment building was glass and bars, so he could easily see through. It looked pretty clear. Bob looked up and saw the news helicopter circling, then another, and a police chopper. They were all circling Hollywood and Highland, it seemed. Bob opened the door quietly and began walking towards Rock and Roll Ralph's. As he walked, he was acutely aware of his surroundings. There was a strange air about. It felt even stranger to Bob to be walking down the street with a shotgun. In the corner of his eyes, curtains moved. Bob twitched towards them. A cat jumped out and ran past him. He almost pulled the trigger. Twice. If this was some shitty horror movie, when the cat ran by they would have done a quick cut and played loud music with an extra loud cat scream. The dreaded cat jump scare. The calling card of a horror movie with no real horror. From behind Bob, emanating from a sea of apartments, a lady screamed. Bob froze. One scream. That could mean so many different things right now. No reason to risk his life for a single scream from an unknown person. He kept going. For a block he walked. It was dreamlike. Even though it was the afternoon, the air felt like it was 4 a.m. Fog hovered low and heavy. The muffled silence and lack of people or traffic reminded Bob of the times he had to go into work butt-ass early. Just about at Ralph's, Bob saw a body lying on the ground. He wasn't shocked, because that spot was a place where hobos would pass out all the time. He had probably seen 100 different bums laid claim to that spot over the years. Bob still covered the body with his shotgun. His eyes darted when he noticed some red. If you think Bob should interrogate the hobo because he must be a zombie, press 3A. If you think Bob should ignore the hobo, press 3B.